Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Good morning and welcome back here into Inside the Game on this Tuesday morning. I am joined alongside my broadcast partner, Ryan Glinsky, here today. Nathan Wangler not in town. He is on vacation this morning. And first off, Ryan, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You called me yesterday to be on the show, and then we had some exciting soccer news come out the last 24 hours, and excited to talk about it.
I am as well, and you know when we get into obviously breaking news, and we've got I would say not a lot of breaking news, but we've got some news here this morning we'll get into. Obviously, yesterday Detroit City FC showing off its renderings of its new stadium coming here to Southwest Detroit, coming in 2027, and we're obviously excited about that. Random Aussie hopping in the chat this morning. There he is. Good evening, Mr. Turner. Now, it's evening in Australia, but it is not evening here in Michigan or in most of the United States, for that matter. It is morning here in our land. But either way, we're happy to have you along, and he obviously is saying hi to you as well, Ryan. So hi right back at you, I imagine?
Yeah, hi right back at you.
Maybe turn that microphone a little more closer to your mouth. There we go. Up. Yeah, tilt it up more. There you go. Yeah. Microphone's not going to bite, I promise. All right, so they oftentimes say that audio is one of the most important parts of a podcast, and I would definitely agree with that statement as well. So, but anyways, so this yesterday, Nathan and I had a chance to talk about something that I wouldn't say I necessarily feel extremely passionate about, but we did talk yesterday, and I wanted to get your take on it because on Friday we talked about this St. Louis fan who wore a MAGA hat to an MLS game, got kicked out because you're not allowed to wear political stuff at a soccer game. And then yesterday we were talking about in Chicago, there's this thing called the Scream Club. All right. And what the Scream Club is, it is a club where people meet once a week on Sundays right by Lake Michigan. And all they do at 7 o'clock is just start to scream out into the world. So I'm curious your take on this as someone maybe, fresh out of college. Do you feel the need to maybe go someplace on a I don't know, like a Sunday and scream to the world about your anxiety or your anxiousness, whatever it might be?
No. I mean, I understand why people do it. At Central, there was the day, or when it would hit midnight for finals week, people would go outside of their dorms and just scream because it's finals week. I have no necessary reason to want to scream at anything. I understand why they do it, but I guess to relieve my stress, anxiety, whatever it is, usually it's just stress, I just went and exercised. Like, I used to just go to the gym, and yesterday I rode my bike for a couple of miles, but I don't need to go and scream anywhere. I mean, I understand why they do it, but you're not going to see me going over to Lake St. Clair at 7 o'clock on Saturday in downtown New Baltimore and just scream to scream. A, that hurts my vocal cords. Kind of need those things. And two, I just don't need to scream.
I do want to ask that question back to those watching this morning, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, Twitter, Roku TV, YouTube, or even on TikTok. We're live right now on TikTok as well. I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts about going someplace and feeling the need to scream. All right. Now, I think a lot of us sometimes feel the urge or the need to scream when we're stuck in traffic. I can only imagine what Chicago is like in traffic, and that one is. So I do understand that, but the need to have to wait until a Sunday to release this screaming, I feel like that might be too long. I mean, if I first off, if I feel the need, if I'm frustrated, if I'm feeling anxious, if anything, and I feel the need that I have to scream, I don't want to hold on to it until Sunday.
No, I mean, maybe that's the only time that the city will allow a group of people to just scream because, maybe sometimes in a city you hear someone screaming, you could think other things. So maybe it's because it's the only time the city will allow it and have a set time where people can just scream and everyone's like, oh, we know why. That's because it's Sunday at 7 o'clock. And they just need to relieve their anxiety and stress.
Relieve the anxiety and stress. So, here is my next question, and I think it's an important one, right? So, the healthy way to relieve stress, and you mentioned exercise. I yesterday mentioned that playing video games is a great way to relieve stress. We had not an argument, but Nathan and I talked about the fact that there are differences between men and women in how not only how we handle and conduct ourselves in relationships and in life, but maybe even how we handle stress. And I had told him that we think differently. He was saying that I might be putting myself in a cancellation spot by making this statement. Maybe I don't believe that I am by saying that women and men do think differently. Now I know that there's this debate about what all that might mean, but I don't want to get into that. But I do want to, I think, have a conversation that there are differences between men and women, boys and girls, when it comes to the way that they think and the way that they handle certain situations. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. But again, I'm also 43 years old. I don't think the same way you do. You are 22 years old. Am I coming from a really bad way of thinking?
No, it's not a bad way of thinking. Everyone handles everything differently. Men handle their stress differently than, or I would handle my stress probably differently than you would handle stress. And Nathan probably handles his stress differently compared to all of us too. So there's no right or wrong answer with how to deal with it. The only wrong answer I would say is doing nothing about it. Doing like just sitting there and letting it consume you, and it just continues to build, and that might hurt your friendships, your work life, your work effort, because sometimes you might just like, well, I just don't care anymore because I'm so stressed out, and it affects it. So I would say the only thing that is wrong is doing nothing about it, because you have to do something about it to relieve it in any shape or form, no matter, what it is. Maybe that's, just going for a walk, petting dogs, going to your favorite restaurant and grabbing your favorite meal, playing video games, as you mentioned. I like to exercise. Some people like to write and jot things down. But I mean, as long as, you do it and you have like your own kind of special way to do it, there's nothing wrong in whatever way you do it.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong per se, for any of us to sit here and say what is right or wrong and how we manage our stress would be, I think, inappropriate and in itself would be wrong. I think that there are healthy and unhealthy ways to do things. I mean, some people might solve their stress problem by eating. By drinking, right? Those would be considered to be unhealthy ways. But I think all of us have these vices that we can maybe hang on to, and a video game could be exactly that. To be fair, a video game could be something where it is maybe on the unhealthier side. So I think that based on your lifestyle and how often you play or how often you don't play. But I thought it was a very interesting conversation, because we got into this whole Scream Club thing and talking about that. And then we obviously got into this whole thing about crazy food and a European kind of take on concession stand food, and it was a very interesting conversation.
I did
yesterday.
see that video though. That looked disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously grilled cheeses. I thought grilled cheeses was pretty universal. I thought, you take 2 pieces of bread with some, butter on both sides, throw some cheese on there. That's pretty standard. I didn't realize that there was a way to make a grilled cheese. Well, you weren't actually grilling it, and it was. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation for another day. Random Mossy says, number one thing with men is drinking, but that's not the answer. It's going for a walk along the beach, or going for a nice drive. See, the problem with a nice drive would be you might find yourself in traffic, and then that would completely defeat the purpose.
And spending money on gas.
And spending money on gas. Hey, but if it's your first time stopping by here on the National Soccer Network and Inside the Game, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, like us, and share this with your friends and family. We are live on Roku TV. So if you have a Roku TV in your home, if you happen to have one that you're thinking about purchasing, all you have to do is go to that Roku TV, into the app, download NSN on your app, and you would have access to us anytime you like. And the cool thing about it is we do have a live 24/7 playout, so you get to watch all of our games that we've done. Over 3,000 games that we've done in our history are going to, at some point in time, make their way into that playout. We are going to be announcing some things coming up here in September, which I think is really exciting. We want to pull out games from the archives, the vault, as we will call it. And starting in September, I believe we're going to do Monday nights. We will have our vault game of the week. And what we'll do is we will literally pull that game out of the vault. It'll play on our 24/7 at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we will even provide maybe some commentary during halftime, before and after the game, to talk about that matchup, right? So, kind of like the NFL Films version of games. And so we'll do that starting here in September. We have another show coming up here on Friday night, the Nationals Kickoff Festival, which, by the way, is not an affiliation to the National Soccer Network. They're a club here locally in Michigan. Had a chance to go out to their kickoff festival, had a chance to talk with a number of young players and coaches. So that show will be available here this Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, the Nationals Kickoff Festival recap show, live at 8 p.m. right here on the National Soccer Network. So, Detroit City FC yesterday announced the renderings and again the naming of the field, Alumni Fields, the forever home of Detroit soccer. And I am going to put these pictures on the screen here in a moment, but I do ask, I mean, did you have a chance to see any of this last night, leading up to, well, not necessarily last night, but, do you have a chance to see any of this yesterday?
Yeah, I got to see the what it's supposed to look like, the pictures, the designs, if you want to think about it. And my first thought was, this looks like Anfield, the Liverpool stadium over in England. Obviously, not all four sides are covered, but that's initially what my first thought was, straight out of England, which is kind of cool to think about.
So here's the first look at it here on your screen. This is the rendering again of Alumni Field, an exterior look. Again, you can see off in the distance there the Ambassador Bridge. I'm not really quite sure what those things coming out of the sky are off in the distance. I don't know if those look like stars or if I don't know what those are, but maybe that's the other bridge, the Gordie Howe Bridge. That is the Gordie Howe Bridge. Has not been lit up yet, by the way. I know I just drove by there the other day. It has not been lit up. But anyways, this is the first renderings you're seeing here on your screen of Detroit City FC, home of the USL Championship USL team in Detroit City FC. And when you think about a stadium like this, I believe it's going to sit upwards of 13,000 people. I'd have to look.
I think it's about 15.
15,000?
I think is what I read.
So we'll take a look here. I want to double check here. Does it say? What does it say? It says in 2024, Detroit City FC Club acquired the site of the former Southwest Detroit Hospital at the corner of Michigan Avenue and 20th Street for the purpose of building a new stadium that will serve as a permanent home for soccer in Detroit. So they're going to honor local history. I'm just trying to see if they actually have anything related to how many.
I believe it's 15, though.
You think it's 15?
Huh?
Let's see here. It does not say here on this one.
This, according from the Detroit News, Detroit City FC started planning for a permanent home in 2020. Stadium is expected to cost $150 million.
Jeez,
as part of a design plan for a 15,000-seat soccer venue.
15,000 seat stop. So here we go. We've got another image here on your screen that is showing, again, another look of the city here, the city along with Alumni Field, which would be the home of Detroit City FC. Curious anyone's thoughts here who are tuning in here today. Thoughts on the way this looks and the new home here for Detroit City FC.
Yeah, I think I like how they're saying it as the forever home, because this would be their third stadium in a decade, I think, because they started at Cass Tech and then went to Keyworth, which I've only been to Keyworth, and hopefully this new place when it eventually becomes available. But, I mean, I don't mind it. They've outgrown the Keyworth Stadium. I mean, their DCFC year after year is continually to grow more in popularity. I've noticed their ticket costs have gone up over the years as well. I've started going to their games in summer of 2022, And since then, I've seen more fans at every game. Even if I'm watching on TV, I see that Keyworth is, for the majority, sold out. At least the side you can see on TV. But but that's a good sign that they are growing out of their old stadium, and it's a good thing that they're getting a new stadium. Hopefully, that doesn't affect the growth on the field. That's always something that I've noticed with soccer teams. If they try to build new stadiums, they might have some financial restrictions in terms of retaining players and buying new players, their youth facilities, training grounds, anything like that. So hopefully hopefully that doesn't affect them too much, is the new building cost.
So Detroit City SC's capacity is 7,933 currently, and they average a 6,188 fans is what they average right now per game.
That's pretty good.
It is. So Louisville City, which has a capacity of 15,304, they average 9,517. They lead the league in averages in the league. You got Heart Health Park, which is in Sacramento. They're in second. They have 11,569 capacity. They average 9,445. Oakland Roots is in third with 8,780. They have a capacity of 15,000 as well. Center Bank Stadium, which is 10,500, as a capacity. That's a capacity. They average 8,638. Now, if we look at it from the standpoint of how close they are to capacity, it looks like Detroit is pretty close to what their capacity is. They're off by about 1,700. Protective Stadium was Birmingham Legion. That can handle 47,000 people, by the way. They average 4,382. Not sure how they are. I'm not sure how they're able to beat Detroit City FC based on that. But my question is this: if the goal, what's the goal of Detroit City FC? If we ask that question, what's the goal?
Like on the field or
with the stadium? Because I feel like, okay, so if the goal is, and I know that I get it, that Detroit City FC and their fans and whatnot, well, we're never going to be in the MLS. Okay. Well, if you want to be a USL League One team, right, let's be honest. I mean, we know that with the new USL Division One that's coming here in a number of years, that the likelihood of a Detroit City FC making their way into that league is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want a stadium of 20,000 people? Why are we doing 15,000? Why not, with the initial build, why aren't we building it more? This isn't going to open until 27. I think that league is supposed to start in 27, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's...
I would say, maybe that's all they can afford right now. Maybe with the surrounding area, they can't go any higher. I genuinely don't know what I would say their current goal, just kind of by looking at it and what they said, what the headline is their forever home. I think that's what because it's not their field at Cass Tech. It's not their field at Keyworth, right? That's Hamtramck. Who owns technically Keyworth?
Hamtramck Public Schools.
Yeah. So I think what they all want is just their own stadium that they can use for whatever. And I don't think it necessarily has to do anything with, let's build it to 20,000 so we can compete in the league. I think they just want a stadium that they can call their own. I think that's all they want.
Yeah, but I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I just, my perspective on this is, why wouldn't we be building a stadium that could handle the capacity? Now, granted, I also understand that in a couple of years you can add more seats. I get that, but and based on what I'm seeing in the renderings, if you look here, maybe the other one here, I feel like off the back there, closer. I don't know if that's what freeway, that might be 75, but off there. To the right, you can see how the stadium's open on that end, right? There's no overhang.
Yeah.
And so you could realistically complete the rest of the stadium there. But if we think about this too, it'll be the 5th professional team in Detroit. right? 5th in Detroit.
Yeah.
The other where they're currently at now, they're in Hamtramck. So this would complete all professional teams in the city of Detroit. The next question is what else can this field do, right? What else can it be used for? Well, it's obviously going to be a soccer-specific stadium, so that means that all soccer games, you would imagine that now, like when it comes to maybe the state finals for high school soccer, right? You might find them there, right? I would imagine that field will be rented out for other things that are soccer-specific here in Michigan. I know that rugby can be played on a soccer field as well. So if there's a rugby thing that can be played there, this will create a bunch of really cool, I think, environments for soccer to be played here in Metro Detroit. But we also have a stadium being built in Grand Rapids as well. And that stadium will be for an MLS Next 2 side, right? And so coming here into Grand Rapids area here in the next couple of years. So I'm curious how that's going to play out with those two soccer-specific stadiums.
I think DCFC will still have the better numbers, and just because A, it's in Detroit, and 2, the team's been around, was going to be around for a decade. But I don't think you're going to see too much competition between the two. I don't think, unless you're
if you're looking for probably a lower dollar amount, because I'd imagine you're talking about renting that field, it's going to probably cost some money. And so I think Grand Rapids Stadium is going to seat 5,000, so 10,000 less people. And to be fair, that's an easier stadium to fill. Yeah. And so if you're worried about numbers and about filling seats, maybe you go there, right? So and I think there's a benefit to having these two stadiums because, again, MHSAA used to be, now all the boys soccer games in the fall are played at Grand Ledge High School in Lansing or Grand Ledge, right? So that's where they're played. And so everyone travels to Grand Ledge. They used to be east side, west side. So it used to be like, okay, Troy Athens would host 2, and then Kentwood or like Rockford would host 2. That's kind of how that used to play out. Now they're all at one location. Girls soccer has been at the same location for the last 2 years. So the last number of years. They've been at DeMartin Stadium in East Lansing on the campus of MSU. And so would we see a potential state championship now for the MHSAA for girls soccer, at Detroit City FC's new field, Alumni Field? I actually think that's more likely now because it's a soccer, just like DeMartin soccer specific. But at the same time, though, it's so close to the MHSA offices and it's central. And if you're looking to bring players in from Traverse City or from the west side of the state, you're not going to want to travel to Metro Detroit potentially. Again, I guess for the experience of playing in a professional stadium. But then you have this new stadium being built in Grand Rapids. It's got 5,000 seats. So it's going to create this thing where there's going to be this need to maybe play at these stadiums versus, DeMartin or Grand Ledge. And it might create some issues. Not, I would say not bad issues, but where you're trying to, I want to go play there or we want to play there. Now you're going to be rotating possibly between those two stadiums. But I'm curious people's thoughts on that. Again, Detroit City FC, if you're just joining us, they have announced their renderings for their new stadium that's going to be built here in 2027, or actually I think opening in 2027. I'd imagine that building will start here very soon. But again, they call home the USL Championship. It'll become really the marquee, I would say, soccer environments here in the Midwest. I mean, obviously, you've got Columbus Crew and you've got Chicago and their stadiums. Lower.com field's a great field. But for us here in the state of Michigan, we've never had anything remotely close to this, and this is really exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And back to your point of the high school state championships, could you see travel soccer like State Cup and all that stuff being played there as well? I know they're in Saginaw, I believe
they are. Yeah, you need fields. And now if this was like
the finals.
Yeah, but even the finals, I mean, they play them on 2 fields typically. Well, actually, let me take that back. I mean, the girls' season they play on 2 fields at Legends, and we'll have that coverage for you as well. So that's coming for us up in October. But I don't think so, and it's not because I don't think that they have the ability to do it, but then you'd have to do it over the course of a couple of days, and typically, that is right in the middle of their USL Championship seasons because USL Championship starts in March, and it ends usually in December, right? Is where it kind of comes to an end, and so maybe late November, early December. Well, Boys State Cup is in May. Girls State Cup is in October. Both of those like right in the middle of their seasons, and so I would say probably not. And then number two, multiple fields. Now, like the old historic Columbus Crew Stadium is on like this beautiful campus where they have 3 or 4 fields. So you could have teams playing on the stadium field. You know what I mean? And then playing out on the other fields nearby. There's not based on these renderings, I don't see another field nearby where training practice would take place. And so I think that would be you need to have a place. So if they had reserve grounds, I would say absolutely, but I don't think that we're going to see that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's been a minute since I've played in the State Cup. It's been at least since 2021. So yeah, I totally forgot about that. But I think you kind of look at the football state championships. Those are all played at Ford Fields. The basketball state championships are played at the Breslin Center. Those are 2 iconic stadiums in the state of Michigan. Ford Field, obviously, where the Lions play, and I also think they play the Catholic League Championship there as well. So Ford Field is used for a ton of those state championships. But I also think in the Breslin Center for basketball, that's obviously historic as well, with Michigan State being a good basketball program over the last couple of decades. But I think if you can build Detroit City FC, if they can continue to build up at the USL ranks, maybe make a couple runs in the US Open Cups, kids in the MHSAA, everyone's going to want to eventually push that to the Detroit City FC grounds at Alumni Field. And I think that you're playing in a professional stadium. I think that's pretty cool in itself. And it's a pretty cool looking stadium from the pictures and the designs, but I think eventually you're going to see, I think what's going to happen actually is that MLS next stadium, that they could go back to the 2 on the west side and 2 on the east side. That's what I think will eventually happen. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Again, it all comes down to cost too, right? I mean, you're talking about building a stadium for $150 million. Again, I don't know all the ins and outs of that. But for the most part, Detroit City FC, from my gathering and what I know, have not turned a profit in their USL Championship current environment. And most teams in that USL Championship environment are not turning a profit. They are typically losing money. And the reason they're able to continue to stay afloat is because there's a bigger picture involved in all this, and which we all understand. And so, you go and now build a $150 million stadium, and again, keeping in mind where this team was 10 years ago, right? They were playing at Cass Tech, 10 years ago. They were not playing. At that time they were playing in. I think they started off in like the NPSL, the National Premier Soccer League, and then they made their way into NISA, and then they made their way from NISA into the USL Championship. And talking about going from a jump to that's a massive jump to go, by the way, from NISA to USL Championship, significant jump. And so when we talk about the sustainability of teams in this country, you have to ask yourself, is building a $150 million stadium in Southwest Detroit that holds 15,000 people, is that going to get you to the next thing? Again, if we think about, there's 6,188 people that can get into right now that on average are going to Detroit City FC games. I don't know if you have a calculator nearby. You can use this one here on this phone here. I'll open it up. I'm just curious. I am curious what the average ticket prices are right now. Let's just say Detroit City FC tickets. All right, what's their ticket prices? I know you said they've been going up. Okay, so like $27.
The cheapest used to be like $12.
I know. So now they're $27. Granted, that's great. So $27. Multiply that by $6,188.
$167,000.
Huh?
$167,000.
$167,000. I think they have on average 20 to 25 home games a year.
Yeah, I would say so.
Right? Now, I don't know how fast we're going to go to 15,000 people. I would argue that the first year, probably everything would be a sellout.
Yeah,
right?
I would
and
say.
then depending from there, I've been to a lot of DCFC games on the sideline, as in the media, and I have yet to see a fully sold out stadium since I've been there.
I think the
Northern Guard has the complete other side, so if
yeah,
they have a low attendance for a game, it's going to look empty on part of that, in that bleachers.
I would say I think the game I went to in the U.S. Open Cup, so they beat the Columbus Crew at Keyworth, and then they hosted Louisville City.
Yeah,
I think that was my first ever game. I think that might have been a sellout back in 2022. And Louisville City was a good side. Don't get me wrong; they were really good. Went down to a shootout. I think it finished 1-1, and then DCFC lost in a shootout. But I thought that was pretty close to a sellout. I don't remember exactly if it was or not.
So Joe Glinski, by the way, coming in the comments section says Catholic League on YouTube.
Yeah,
Who's Joe Glinski?
that would be my father, who's working not too far from here.
Oh, your dad. Oh, well, hello, Joe.
Yeah, he. We have this joke in our family because he went to Harper Woods, Notre Dame,
Okay.
and he Catholic League, and he talked about how it was so difficult and all these different, CC, Brother Rice, De La Salle, and all that. So the SEC saying where it just means more. And I always made a joke that the Catholic League, it just means more because he talks about how great the Catholic League was compared to all the public schools. Even though in soccer I never lost to a Catholic League school, but that's just the funny bit.
Yeah. Obviously, I can say that as in my day, I did lose to a Catholic League school. I lost to Brother Rice in a regional semifinal back in 1999, so I can attest that. But when it came time for state championship, when we won '97, we did beat De La Salle, and so we did beat Brother Rice in that tournament as well. What other Catholic League teams we beat? Anyways, we had this thing in high school where after every playoff game, our coach would come in and say, and my wife thinks this is so mean, by the way. He'd be like, how many teams did that senior? How many seniors did that team have? And then we'd be like 10, and he's like, all right, well, 10 seniors have been retired.
It's not wrong.
And at the end of the season, at the end of that playoff run, if we got all the way to a state championship, and we would be in the locker room, and we'd be like, that was 90 seniors we sent packing.
That's not mean. That's the hey, if that gives you an edge in the game, if that's like, oh, I want to retire these seniors, gives you that extra edge.
No question. If you're just joining us, we've been talking this morning about this new, again, Detroit City FC Alumni Field that was announced here yesterday as far as these new renderings. Alumnify Field. That is the official naming of the stadium. Again, you can see there off in the distance, you got two bridges, the Gordie Howe Bridge off to the right and the Ambassador Bridge off to your left. Again, it's a beautiful rendering, and really excited about this. I mean, I grew up here in Michigan. Obviously, you did as well, Ryan. And the things that we always wanted growing up, at least I did. I wanted a professional team here in Michigan that I could go root and cheer for. And going to, again, nothing against Keyworth Stadium. It's a high school stadium.
Yeah.
Nothing against it. Nothing against it at all. It is a high school stadium. And so something we've been talking about for years about Detroit City FC is what is their growth? What are they trying to do? Because again, you can only do so much in that stadium. And again, if you've ever been to that stadium, I don't have to really give you any type of visuals. I mean, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. Aesthetically around the area, it's you're driving through neighborhoods, and it's just not aesthetically pleasing. There's a lot of history. On the streets of Hamtramck, there's a lot of, maybe you could say here, nostalgia, maybe is the right word to use. But outside of those two things, it doesn't look pleasant. If you're from out of town and you're driving down these streets, you might go, wow, what am I driving into? And I've been there many times to cover games. We've been there many times to cover not only Detroit City FC games, but other games like it. And yeah, I mean, they got food trucks, and they've made the best out of a situation. I mean, no doubt. They've fixed the bleachers. They've obviously provided that school with brand new turf, and they've done a great amount of nice things to that environment. But they have to be someplace else. I mean, they say that I think Detroit City FC, from a player standpoint, is one of the worst environments to play in as a player.
Well, I
And
would
that's not
imagine.
just talking about on the field. We're talking about from the locker room experience to all of it. The locker rooms were built in the 30s. I mean, they're not great. And again, so I get it. I get it 100% that it makes sense. I'm just curious, why not? Why are we doing? I mean, obviously, the difference between maybe 5,000 more seats in a stadium might be, I don't know, but I feel like 15,000 might not be enough. If you're trying to, surpass USL, because they're not going to stay in the USL Championship. You're not going to spend $150 million on a stadium and stay in the championship. You're going to go the next level up. You're going to go one more level up. You're going to go Division 1, and you're going to stay within the USL because they don't want to go to the MLS. They've been clear about that. I mean, when we had not Dan Garber, what's his name from the guy who owns also the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm drawing a blank on
Gilbert.
Yeah, Dan Gilbert. Yeah, Dan Gilbert. When he was involved with trying to bring an MLS team here, people kept saying, "Why aren't we just partnering with Detroit City FC? They already have a team." Detroit City FC doesn't want to have an MLS team. They've been very clear about that. Now, granted, that I think a lot of that comes from their fan base, but I firmly believe that if an MLS team were here in Michigan, that fans would just find a way to go to the MLS game. I don't think that we need more than one professional team in Michigan, but I do think that an MLS team would have been great for our area. So I do think that Detroit City FC will find their way into the Division 1 of this new USL league that's going to come here and compete with the MLS.
Yeah, I would hope so. I'm hoping you're spending that amount of money. 150 million is what it was said. Yeah, 150 million. I'm hoping that you spend that money to stay in that USL Division 1 division. I mean, other than that, I feel like there's just a waste of money, and I feel like you should have just stayed at Keyworth. But going back to Keyworth, I think what people like about it is that it's different from all the different stadiums in Detroit. Well, it's Comerica, Little Caesars, Ford Field. Like, those are all in the city. This one isn't. It's in a neighborhood, and you kind of get to, walk through the streets of Hamtramck to get to it. I know it's not super eye-pleasing. And I know you mentioned for an opposing player being on the field, the locker rooms aren't great. Also, how about the benches? You can't even stretch your legs, or if you stretch your legs out, you're on the field, and you're disrupting the field of play. So you have to stay in like a 90 unless you're warming up. If you're on the bench, you have to stay in like a 90-degree spot with your legs because you can't stretch them. And I think what people like about it is it's just so different, and it's old. It has like a nostalgia feel, as you mentioned. There's all the different food trucks. Even one of the concession stands behind, not the Northern Guard side, but the other side where the press box is on, behind that, it's like in a fence. And all that's really blocking, or really, what's the word I'm looking for? Dividing the concessions from the concourse is a wooden pallet where, that's where the beer are on. And the beer are just in normal coolers, not like anything special you'd see at a Tigers or a Lions game. So I think people like is that it's different compared to all the major four sports. And I don't think we need, if DCFC is continuing to grow, I don't think there's a point of having an MLS side because you're disrupting, this.
A look here at some of the existing Hamtramck Keyworth Stadium look and feel. I mean, so again, that's what it looks like currently. This is what we're going to be seeing here. Obviously, significant difference between the two. And again, I don't want to come off as someone who's against this. I am not against it at all. I think it's great for the area. It's great for the region. It'll only increase visibility and help grow the game of soccer.
Also, parking could be a lot better.
Parking could be, obviously, you got to park in the street, or you got to park off on behind some baseball fields. There's for someone that's been to Hamtramck and been to Keyworth many times, I can tell you that obviously this is going to be a step up, and I'm curious how this will impact obviously the Hamtramck area, because again, this has been where Detroit City FC has been for like the last 5 or 6 years, and they've had a lot of success there. I mean, and so there's an impact. I'm sure that will be that will hurt Hamtramck, but on the flip side of that, again, I have to say this because I think it's important. Is that the stadium is going to be great. It's going to be great for the region. It's going to be great for this area. It's going to be great for the teams. It's going to be great for. But right now, we're not filling out. We're not filling to capacity. Right. We're not on some waiting list.
Yeah.
There's not a waiting list to go watch our soccer games. Okay. And again, I have not been to a game where I've seen it sold out. I've never been to a sold out game before. Now, that might happen, but they're averaging 6,188. You have to now draw 5,000 more people on average to every game. I mean, you want 12,000 people in that stadium at every game. All right. And if we look at the USL Championship as a whole, right now, Lynn Family Stadium, Louisville City, which is the newest team to be in the USL Championship, I think one of the newest ones, they have a capacity of 15,000. Their average is 9,517. Now, am I going to sit here and say that Louisville has a stronger fan base than Detroit City? I don't know. Okay, I don't know. But I'm just thinking about this from the standpoint of long term. We get out of the honeymoon of a new stadium. What's our attendance going to look like? You know, because that's where sustainability is going to come in. Okay, Detroit City FC has been around for almost. I think they're at 12 years. They've been around since 2012, I believe, 2011. So 12, 13 years they've been around, okay? Detroit Tigers have been around for 100 effing years. I mean, the Lions, whatever. I mean, Red Wings, and they have a bankroll.
Red Wings are making their 100th year.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a significant amount of time. So they're not going anywhere. If their stadium doesn't fill up, they still are going to survive, okay? I mean, they have the backing of a ton of stuff. I mean, but if we build a $150 million stadium, are we going to see Detroit City FC around for another 30, 40 years? Or if they only fill 4,000 seats a game? Because I'm looking at the USL Championship as a whole. Okay, most of these teams are under 5,000 fans. Highmark Stadium, they are at 4,752 as their average. They can only handle 5,000, so their stadium is not a very big stadium at all. Widener Field, Colorado Springs, they draw 7,606. Their stadium's capacity is 8,000. I mean, they're pretty damn close to being sold out, okay, at every game, okay? Protective Stadium, again, not so much. Miami FC, they can handle 20,000 people. They're only at 1,124. Now, granted, Miami has been terrible the last number of years. I'm not even sure they're 11th right now in the USL Championship. They've played. They have 19 points.
They also don't have Lionel Messi on their team like another team in Miami. So there's that. But I also think where the sustainability comes from is how good the product is on the field. I think it all really kind of depends on that.
I don't disagree with you on that, but soccer is not one of those sports where I'm not saying that fans aren't going to go, but even when the Lions were at their shittiest, they still had fans in the stands, and a significant amount of fans, by the way. I mean, I don't know if I ever saw a stadium that had 20,000 when it's at 60. You might see it towards the end of a game when they're getting blown out, but typically at the beginning of the game, they're all going to be there, right? So. I have to ask that question. And again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. I'm just saying, how do we become sustainable with 15,000 seats? Again, Segra Field, which I've been to, seats 5,000. Their average is 1,964. First Horizon Stadium, which is North Carolina FC, they can handle 10,000. 2,357. Cashman Field, Las Vegas, handles 12,500. They have 2,654 as their average. Most of the teams in this league are not selling out. Matter of fact, none of them are selling out consistently. And their average is almost nowhere near what their capacity is. And so I have a deep concern about building a stadium that, one, you might not be able to afford. And then, two, what is the long-term viability of this stadium being filled? Yeah. Filled. Because, again, the only way this stadium gets paid back and gets paid off is if you're again, you said it was $100, so $27.
Yeah, 27 is the cheapest.
27. We could argue that as soon as this thing is built, tickets are going to double.
I would say so.
I would say they're going to be at least $50 to $60 a ticket to get into the stadium.
I would say.
Okay, so the ticket price is going to go up at that point, right? And so what was the number? So let's just say $60. Multiply that by 10,000 because I'm assuming that's going to be the average. That's 600,000 a game. And I think, again, they host 20 games a year. So it's $12 million just in tickets. Now, granted, I don't know what all the rest of it's going to be. But that's $12 million. Now, they have the naming rights. So the naming rights are probably worth X amount of dollars. You'd like to think that it's worth 10, 15, or $20 million over the course of a 10-year deal. So hopefully a good chunk of this is already picked up and covered. If you can do $12 million a year in ticket sales, and that helps you produce, and you do that 10 years, it's $120 million. It basically pays for the stadium, right? But you need to have 10,000 people coming in.
That's going to be tough to do. And I think also something that hasn't been mentioned with the other teams is those teams are also playing in football stadiums. And soccer and football stadiums don't necessarily go hand in hand.
Louisville City plays in their own stadium. Sacramento plays in their own stadium. Oakland Roots plays in their own stadium.
Oh, they do?
Rhode Island FC plays in their own stadium. Indy 11 plays in they'll play at Michael A. Carroll Stadium, which is it's on the campus of IU Indy.
It looked like a football stadium when I was watching the DCFC game the other day.
Now they play in a soccer-specific stadium, but it has all the other lines on it for like lacrosse and stuff,
okay.
and I think it has a track around it as well. But that's where IU Indy plays. What used to be called what do you call it? Something IUPUI is what it used to be called.
Ooey Pooey?
Ooey Pooey. Toyota Field, that is a soccer-specific. Highmark Stadium is soccer-specific. Isotopus Park, I'm not sure if that's soccer. But Colorado Springs is soccer-specific. Protective Stadium, again, that's 47,000. That's not going to be a soccer-specific stadium. Lexington, Trinity Health, all these places, for the most part, are soccer-specific stadiums.
Well, then I was wrong on that. But I just think, though, I think that Detroit fans are still going to show up for I would say the first 2 years. I would say the first 2 years of everyone kind of experiencing it. I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, you can't really. I mean, the only other thing that you can really do there is concerts that you can have at. I mean,
well, but again, I mean, if you are an artist coming in, first off, to be 100% honest, if you're a big time artist, you're going to be at Comerica Park, Ford Field, or Little Caesars Arena. Like those are the three places that you're going to be.
Yeah.
Why? Because they can seat more people, right? So Ford Field with a concert could probably bring in 40 or 50,000 people. Little Caesars Arena probably they can't bring in 40 or 50,000, but they could bring in a significant amount of people. And so I would say the concerts could absolutely be part of the process, a part of the, especially your artists right now who are going maybe to Pine Knob, right? They're going to Pine Knob or to Freedom Hill. I'm not sure they call it Freedom Hill anymore. These are outdoor amphitheaters where they can seat. I don't know what the capacity of those are, but because they can't go into Ford Field. Okay, Thomas Rhett. The reason why he was at Pine Knob is because he could not fill Ford Field.
There's a reason why. Could have been able to. That was a great show.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that there's a reason why he's not there.
Yeah, I would say
there's a reason, and again, I mean, reason why Taylor Swift is going to do Little Caesars Arena.
There's a reason. I would just say, but I'm just thinking of other things that they could possibly do. Do you have lesser named artists who just come to the field, or do they do what the Tigers have been doing all summer long, where you bring not necessarily a massive name, but a kind of well-known name, and they do the summer series where after the game they perform like a 30-minute show, a 20-minute show to whoever's left. That's the only thing that, I mean, you could really do. I don't know what else you could do with the stadium, because during the summertime when, you could use an outdoor facility, that's when the games are going on, and you don't want to have a full-on, let's just say, for argument's sake, someone big time comes into the field and does a concert there. That's going to tear up the field. You don't necessarily want that. So, I mean, I don't know what else, because I'm just thinking of other ways that, this stadium could be used for outside of soccer games. I don't know what else they could do.
I don't know. And that's why I'm saying on ticket sales alone, if you're just saying whatever money is coming in from tickets were to go into the till to pay for this thing, you need 10 years at an average ticket price of $60 a person.
Yeah.
At 10,000 people average per game, if they're doing 20 games a year at the stadium. So that just gives you that idea. Now, granted, yes, there's other things you can rent it for. Absolutely. Stadium concerts, absolutely, right? Other things, yes, small tournaments, things like that. There's a lot of things that you could absolutely do. We're only, by the way, talking about the men's side. The women's side also plays. Detroit City FC, women's side. They play in the USLW. Now, you would like to think that team eventually would make their way maybe into the Super League. Right? They want to make that a professional women's team. And so they would maybe move into that environment. That's absolutely possible. And then now you're bringing in another 5,000 or 6,000, another 20 times a year, right? Okay, so now you get to that number to pay back that stadium way back. You get way closer. Now, you and I both know this is probably some 30-year loan.
Yeah.
That there's some, so they just need to start, obviously, and they won't start paying it until after construction's done, completed, and hopefully the naming rights will cover a bunch of this. You have all your concessions, but keeping in mind that if you want to stay competitive, you have to pay people. You got to pay people, and so you would like to think
coaches.
So again, it's very, very risky, but the reward is surely going to be hopefully better than the risk. I just don't want to see a stadium being built and then like 5 years from now, like, oh crap, Detroit City FC didn't make it.
I get it. You brought up some great points. I mean, I would say soccer in this country, it's kind of hard to build a team and get to the top because you can't get entry into the MLS and get entry into the CONCACAF Champions League where there's more money in that as well. Kind of over in Europe, where you can get up those divisions, get into the top flights, and then play in the other European competitions, Europa League, Conference League, Champions League, and you have a whole host of different competitions where you can win money in. But in America, it's a little bit tough to do that simply because we can't get into the MLS, we can't get into the CONCACAF Champions League. Messi's not playing a game here in Detroit. He's just not. He's gonna stay where he's gonna play against the MLS sides. So I mean, it's a difficult situation for a soccer team to continue to produce all the different money. And I mean, I guess the other way is if you somehow get a really young prospect at like 15 or 16 that's performing so well, and a bigger team wants to give you a transfer fee. That's kind of the other thing that I could think of where they could generate any sort of cash.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's lots of ways to do it. I am, in fact, curious about what this will look like, but obviously 2 years to figure that out. So yesterday, we went to P.F. Chang's for dinner, and really good. Love the food there, and it happens to be at Somerset Mall.
Okay.
Which I know you've probably been to many times in your lifetime.
Yes.
My youngest, my only son, Nathan, has been a part of our network for many, many years, and obviously part of our family. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned that he wanted to get his ears pierced. Right? It mentioned that he's like, I want to get my ears pierced. We are kind of like, what? And so we were sitting at dinner last night, and he's like, we're here at the mall. Is Claire's open? I'm like, oh yeah, you want to get your ears pierced, don't you? He's like, yeah, I do. I go, well, if you get him, I'm getting him. Now. What I want to say is this. You can clearly tell that if you're looking, well, Ryan can tell, I did not get my ears pierced last night. But my son did. My son, Nathan, did get his ears pierced last night. And I got a video. I made a video of the piercings. Now, my phone right now, which is over there, has the video on the phone. But right now we're using it for TikTok. So I can't put it on the screen. But I will be putting it. We'll use it tomorrow. I will definitely show the video of him getting his ears pierced. I have never seen someone cry so hard in my life.
Oh wow!
I'm just kidding. He did not cry. Matter of fact, he's like, "Is it done? It's done. Okay, it's done." It was. But he did get both of his ears pierced yesterday, and it was fun to watch. I was hoping that they let me be one of the guy.
You get to
I
pierce
wanted
them, that would have been hilarious.
but no, I was not allowed to do that. But I am curious though, about this. I never had this urge to want to pierce my ears.
Same here.
I never had it. I know that we live in a different world today than even back then. There were some of my classmates that were getting it, but not many. But now I feel like nose piercings, ear piercings are like, it's just like now it's just a thing, And obviously tattoos are a thing too, but at younger ages, you really typically can't get a tattoo. You have to have permission and whatnot. Ears can get pierced even without permission. Getting a tattoo might be a little more difficult to do that on your own. But I'm just curious as people's thoughts on the whole ear piercing thing, especially when it comes to us boys, men, gentlemen getting them. I'm curious people's thoughts on that before we wrap up the show here this morning.
I have no real thoughts on it. I mean, people can do what they want. I have no desire to have any sort of piercings. Definitely no ears pierced. I don't think I don't think any of my friends have their ears pierced. Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, no. I mean, I feel like we kind of live in a world where people, it's my body, my choice. They can do what they want with it, and it doesn't really. I don't think it would affect, jobs too much as long as it's not too revealing or anything. But I mean, people can do what they want with it. I don't care if you have them or not. Doesn't affect you as a person or what I think of you as a person. But I don't necessarily have any thoughts on it. I am someone who has never wanted a ears pierced.
Yeah, again, I've never had that inclination, but I know that obviously a number of people have. And again, there's nothing wrong or I guess say right or wrong about it. I was just curious, your thoughts on it. It's something that came up over the last couple of days. My son he'll be 15 here in October. He's 14 right now. I'm always curious why people want to do what they do. But either way, we have about 3 minutes left to go in this show. And something that we've got coming up here this weekend on Saturday night, we have Flint City Bucks in a friendly, their last game of the season. We'll bring that to you live here on the National Soccer Network. We talked about how we have the recap show coming up here from this weekend. I asked some national players their thoughts over the weekend about why they love soccer. I played this video yesterday. I do want to play it again here this morning. I want to know your thoughts, and maybe you can talk about this for a moment.
About playing soccer.
That it's fun.
It's fun, right? What do you like about playing soccer the most? What is the most fun thing you do when it comes to soccer?
I like how in soccer you get to like dribble, you get to pass, and it's kind of like a good workout, and it's just very fun to play with your teammates.
What do you like about it the most?
I would just say just scoring. For me, I'm a goalkeeper, so making a good save in the last minute of a final or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm a former goalkeeper myself, so that's really cool, right? About playing soccer.
That it's kind of a free sport that you can make your own decisions, that your coach can help you, but it's mostly you making the decisions.
That's really, really cool, and I'm assuming you enjoy playing with your friends as
well. So there are some of the players we asked those questions. They did a great job yesterday, by the way. So
That's
it was
awesome.
fantastic. But yeah. So I'm curious. As you hear those answers, what do you think?
I think that's awesome. I mean, how old were they? Probably 13, 14 tops?
No, I mean a couple of them. I mean the one Addie, adorable. She probably was 8.
Yeah, so I mean, at that age, it's all about playing with your friends, getting to make all those different memories, and you're learning valuable skills that you can use in everyday life, in your careers with team working and working with others. But that's what it's all about. At that type of age is just being with their friends and making those memories. Like I remember at that age, there was about 4 or 5 of us that played for the Wolves out in Romeo, and we would carpool twice a week to practice. And those, I know, drove the parents, and if my dad and mom are still watching, drove them crazy because we were a rowdy bunch. But, that's, what I remember is those carpools, going to 7-Eleven after practice, begging our parents to take us to Taco Bell because we liked the Doritos Locos Tacos at the time. But, that's the point of it. That's the memories that you can make and, you can use in a lifetime.
Which leads me to this next question. I asked them, why the Nationals? Why did they like the team that they were playing for? Take a listen to this.
There was one thing you could say about the Nationals. What would it be?
Coaches are really good and like supportive.
I have great teammates. We're really good.
Coaches are supportive, and they really encourage you to do their best.
Okay.
Or to do your best.
I like how the team, it's really good and we're really strong together.
That they're my friends.
That they're your friends. That when
Another
you can
great
hear those
answers.
pure answers coming from kids who are obviously very early in their soccer careers and maybe right in the middle of them, it's always kind of cool to hear what they have to say. Obviously, me and you growing up, we had obviously very different opinions and experiences with our coaches, with our clubs, and those whether we like them or not, they shaped us in our soccer journey as well as even our journey as we turned into adults and here in society. But it's cool to hear what these players have to say about the club they're currently playing for right now and the positives side. And we talked to a lot of people, and during that time period, they all basically said the same stuff, and that's indicative of that organization, and that show will be here coming up here on Friday night at 8 p.m. But that'll wrap up here this morning's show of Inside the Game. 135 is officially in the books. I want to thank Ryan once again for stopping by. He'll be back here tomorrow as well as Nathan continues to be out of town here. He'll be back on Thursday here for episode number 137. But that'll wrap up Inside the Game 135 here on this Tuesday morning. We appreciate you stopping by. Hit that subscribe button, like us, share this with your friends and family. That's Ryan Glinsky. I'm Jonathan Turner. We're happy to have you here today. See you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game.